Hello, this is Practical Insights for Korean immersive companies looking to enter the UK market. My name is Tony Hughes, and I'm going to talk you through the next 20 minutes about what I think are the potential benefits and opportunities for Korean immersive tech and content companies who are looking to branch out into new markets. So, first off, I'll give a brief background to who I am and the current market potential for the UK, and then a bit more specific points about why you in particular as a Korean immersive company should come to the UK. I'll talk a bit about the key points around venture finance. It's a nascent sector, so companies are still at a very early stage and require venture finance in order to get their product or service exactly right and ready for market access and entry. And there, I think the UK is very strong in that area, as of course it is in terms of public sector support. I'll talk a bit about incubators and investors who are key to that and who have a particular focus on immersive technology companies. And then I'll talk a bit about a sector in particular I think is coming round to the potential, particularly because of the pandemic, of the opportunities that immersive technologies afford to companies in that particular sector. Obviously, it's a cross-cutting theme suite of technologies that we have with XR. So I think it's important to look at the reality of how that impacts upon traditional sectors, because that's where you're likely to find a lot of your low-hanging fruit, your early market clients. And then I'll sum all that up into generally what is the strong pitch for the UK for any technology companies looking to come in from overseas. So as I said, my name is Tony Hughes. My background originally was in television, and I established a digital media lab about 20 years ago now, which was a joint venture between the what was the largest independent television company in the UK and the local university, looking at how interactive technologies and the internet would impact upon media and entertainment as a whole. As a result of that, we set up an accelerator, which was the first of its kind in the country, and span out about 65 companies in 8 years with a venture fund attached to that. So working with large organisations like Channel 4, like the BBC, like British Telecom, and looking at bringing up small companies, both from the graduates pool of the universities to experienced professionals who are launching into this space to figure out how interactivity played a big part in how we were delivering media and entertainment. Of course, then that also rolled out into other sectors, as we're seeing now with immersive technologies. About 10 years ago, I co-founded Focus Innovation, which ran corporate innovation programs, which was linking large corporates to small, fast-moving, agile, innovative companies who could potentially help them slightly change what they do or improve the level of service, usually online or with interactive technologies again. I've also sat on the external advisory board for large organisations like the BBC, which is our largest broadcaster, and Hewlett Packard, which I'm sure you'll all know is the Silicon Valley giant based in California. At the moment, I remain a creative industries advisor for the UK government and a deal maker for their global entrepreneur program. So this is a program which brings in overseas founders from all around the world, including South Korea, founders who are developing scalable, innovative technology companies who want to utilize for a short time the UK as their global headquarters in order to do two things mainly. One is to access the global market better, and the other one is to raise finance. I'm also founder of Curator Technologies, which I've developed City Curator and a suite of products for investment and promotion agencies to better map the cities and the sectors they are strong in for globally focused companies to identify, pretty much like TripAdvisor, but for businesses who want to expand globally. And of course, I am CEO of Symphony Associates, which has a particular focus on your part of the world in East Asia, South Korea, including Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Japan, looking at how we help companies and great founders that I've always worked with there for the past 20 years to come to the West, particularly to the UK and Europe, and to expand what they do. I think in terms of the UK's potential in XR, it's really accelerated its pace and the change of that sector over the last few years. There are around 1,300 companies across all different sectors, so all immersive technology companies, but looking at media entertainment, as I mentioned, manufacturing, education, training, fitness and retail, of which I'll talk a bit more about that later. I think there's also, I'll just go back to that. I think there's also, great potential for XR companies to really now access venture finance in the UK. We've seen that recently, and we've also seen recently, huge exits in the UK for XR companies, which is encouraging to see. So, like with all of the UK, there is a constant source of finance from early stage seed through to Series A, B, even with venture debt for companies to access scaling finance. And potentially, because there's a lot of eyes, there's a lot of focus from large global tech companies, especially on London, to exit fairly early if that's your strategic push. Including IPO now, which never really used to be an exit for companies here. I know it didn't. It has been in South Korea for many years, but increasingly for the UK market as well, with the AIM market, which has become a lot more easier to access for early stage companies. So there are a number of reasons I'm just going into now around why immersive technology companies would set up in the UK. We know it's a big market, and that's why you're obviously engaged in developing the technologies and content that you are. We know the big numbers as well. The various reports are out there. UK, I think, is very well positioned to benefit from all those predictions and investments coming into the market space. These are government figures saying that it's going to predict a boost of 70 billion US dollars to the UK economy, with close to 500,000 jobs created here by over the next 9 years. So that's encouraging, and we've seen that as well from the UK government, who've got the message. Over the last couple of years, we've published a UK national industrial strategy, and new nascent technologies like AI and also immersive technologies are very much in that strategy by the government to look at the next 10 years about how we reshape our economy and what type of technologies we want to encourage, both in terms of our strategy, in terms of our tax environment and ecosystem, and also in terms of government funding as well. Also encouraging is the amount of investment coming in to this market from the private sector and from venture capital organizations in particular. Only a couple of years ago, I know a lot of immersive companies in the UK were struggling to get venture finance to at any type of realistic level. I'm talking about in excess of 500,000, over 1 million. Because the VCs just weren't educated in terms of the potential for this market. Of course, what's helped recently is that push from unfortunately from the pandemic and COVID-19, where business models have changed rapidly. So everything is going online, and online experiences have to improve in so many different ways across all those different industries you can see there. I mean, key to that is the rollout, as you know very well, in South Korea, because if you have one of, if not the best, connected ecosystems in the world for telecoms, for broadband, and next generation internet services. And the rollout of 5G is a key element of the UK's plan. There is a lot that's gone into that. There are 5G centres all around the country, including one in Guildford, which has partners including Samsung, looks at not just how these networks will operate, but also gives access to content companies and SMEs who are developing next generation applications, services and content for that. And again, the UK is pretty good at that, connecting companies into platforms like that via a number of different incubators, accelerators and transfer technology centres, of which again I'll talk a bit more about in a minute. Key always in the UK, and I know this from my background in media entertainment, is the focus on content, which accounts for about 3/4 of all the companies in the sector that we have here. A lot of those are developing next generation immersive, experiences, and they're all quite small companies, like there are in the media production centre. But there's more than enough work out there to keep them busy. And I think generally the UK, as it says there, offers a very friendly business environment. So it's very easy to set up a company in the UK. It takes no time at all. You can register a company from Seoul or Busan or wherever you're based. And it does cultivate and reward innovation. We don't care where you're from. It's about the quality of the product or service you're developing, whether you can deliver that. And we're willing to back that up, whether it's public sector finance through mechanisms I'll mention in a minute, or whether it's from the VC community, which has always been very progressive in the UK. Just some examples of companies in the sector that I think are worth noting. Anything World, which is focused on gaming, of course. Gaming is always one of those sectors which picks up on new technologies and figures out how to commercialize them, but also because they've got that great blend of design and programming knowledge, can turn that into an immersive experience, probably more so than any other sector. And then, of course, you've got companies like Body Swaps, and they are involved in training with commercial worlds. I mean, training is one of those sectors, especially in corporate learning, that has been around with virtual reality for well over 10 years in the UK. Because there has always been, especially in the enterprise market, which is still probably the biggest opportunity in the UK and generally worldwide, has always been a market where there's been money for companies doing interesting work in this particular area. And Body Swaps is definitely one like that. All these companies have raised significant finance. Body Swaps has raised over $500,000, and it's a very early stage company. Fixer, operating in a space I know where a lot of companies in South Korea are focused, which is in the health and fitness space, has done very well, raised a Series A of well over £6 million, and has got to market very quickly, and has been very successful as one of the standard bearers for the sector in the UK. Fundamental VR, another one that's raised a lot of money. It's raised close to £8 million in the UK. Developing its VR haptic platform, again in the training environment, but this time in very much pointedly in healthcare. And Gravity Sketch, which is more of a design tool, again, but has raised a phenomenal amount of money, well over £4 million, to develop its organisation in the UK. And we can only see that their market is growing. The amount of companies who are raising money at that level is growing in the UK, hence the number of companies we are seeing it. There's just a little bubble shot of the type of funds that are raised in the createch industries. Immersive's probably the best example of that, but the organisations that crisscross across tech and creative industries in the UK, probably about 241, this is Crunchbase figures, have raised money in the last, in the year up to May, last year. And you can see this is just for the UK market. You can see that there's a real mix of companies and sizes in terms of the types of funds at what series they're raising, which is very encouraging. It points to the fact that we're coming out slightly of a nascent early market phase, especially in terms of understanding and education for venture capitals, into something which is a bit more pragmatic and well thought out. And I think also that's reflected in and also been bolstered by the fact there's been so much public sector support in the UK for early stage companies, both from organisations like Innovate UK, which give out grants, as you can see there, up to £10 million grant you can access through open grant funding competitions. There are even specific calls, which are again competitive, as there have been with the Audience of the Future competitions for immersive technology companies. And then there are the KTNs, the knowledge transfer networks, and Immerse UK, which is the trade body for immersive technology companies in the UK, with over 1,000 organisations and individuals as members, which are very key to making you feel at home if you're an overseas company, plugging you into whether it's university, research, corporates, or other companies developing complementary skill sets to what you're doing. And of course, there are a plethora of other grants. I just mentioned the National Lottery grants because, again, they seem to be, especially in the heritage space, one where they're embracing augmented and virtual reality technologies. I mentioned before that there's a surfeit of investors in the UK. These are just some. At the bottom there, London Venture Partners and Station 12, focused on gaming and media and entertainment. There are incubators and like the Catapult, Digital Catapult, which is part of the government's Catapult series of accelerators, which look at new technologies and how they can be encouraged, both through government funding, both through partnerships. And by being part of these, you also get that PR public relations lift, where the visibility of your company is lifted, and you're given a degree of authentication, I suppose, where companies will look at you as potential clients, of course, for you, but also investors will look at you with a great deal more interest. Initiatives like Augmenta have been instrumental in getting VCs in this space, and of course, more generally, there are research and development tax incentives from the UK government to support companies who are doing innovative work across all different technologies areas, including AR, VR, and haptics. I've applied for these before for my own companies. They are very straightforward in terms of applying for, and you can cover off or more than double the amount that you invest in research and development early stage. You have similar initiatives, I'm sure, in South Korea. They're replicated here, whether it's getting money back from the government in terms of your R&D tax that comes off your corporate tax, and in some senses, in some ways, if you're making a loss, you can also get credit vouchers, which are incredibly useful for companies at very early stages, and also through the Innovate UK side, where you're getting grants to support your work in collaboration with other organisations. But I just wanted to focus on one sector because we don't have much time, so I can't go into all the different sectors and how immersive technologies are impacted upon them. I think retail is an important one, not just because of the pandemic, although it's obviously been an important part of why companies such as the three there you can see have made a big leap in terms of what they do, in terms of getting clients, in terms of raising finance, etc. But as you can see there from Nielsen, there's been a huge push from COVID and from consumers who are looking for more interactive experiences. Obviously, we're all being locked down or in isolation. We're all looking for ways in which to interact with things and people in a bit more of a meaningful way, and immersive technologies allow you to do that, but you have to get it right. The retail sector, like all the other sectors, are quite conservative and traditional. So I think it's only slight tweaks that you need to do, but you have to understand the customer journey in that sense when you're pitching to these organizations. And the likes of Hullabaloo, who have been amazing over the last few years in terms of attracting that audience and improving conversion, particularly for big box items, as being key to the success of it. And that's led the way in which other companies have approached this, from 3 to no place like, which is the N logo you can see there, which has increased. I think for retailers, it's got to be a simple ask. So you're either helping them sell things, or you're helping them become more efficient, or you're improving the customer experience where you're keeping people online and in their stores longer. And all of these augmented and virtual reality solutions do that in some way. So if you can do it, and I think also with each of these examples I've got here, the deployment time for these technologies into an online store or even a physical center on the VR side is no longer than 2 weeks. That is key to landing customers in the retail sector. You have to be able to deploy your technology, and yes, it's useful to be able to demonstrate it, but if you can deploy with your client, you're much more likely to get repeat custom and then go viral. So once you have one customer, this is particularly true of Go in-store, once they get one customer, they quickly snap up others. And I think the retail environment is key to that. There are other organizations and trade organizations in the retail sector which make it slightly easier for technology companies to enter, and companies like Validify that matchmake between technology companies and retail companies as well. So again, the UK has lots of organizations there who just exist to take place. So I'm just going to wrap up by just talking a bit about the UK generally as a place for technology companies, particularly early stage technologies who want to come here, and the ecosystem that does exist. And it falls broadly into these four bubbles that you've got here, both in terms of market access. Yes, it's a big market, and it's a big market for lots of different technology sectors. And a sector that's growing twice the national average. We're voracious consumers of technology, both online and offline. And the social capital, which is so important to the glue. It's why Silicon Valley got a head start upon all the other clusters so many years ago, because it had founders and entrepreneurs willing to invest back into that ecosystem. And I think we've got that now with very much more developed than any other ecosystem, particularly in Europe, in terms of the level of investment as well, twice as much as France and Germany. And what's really encouraging to see is the diversity around that now, which is very important, which I mentioned, as I want to particularly mention that we've got more female tech entrepreneurs than France and Germany combined now, and that's because of the ecosystem, and because we've got women who have been successful coming out and investing back into women founder businesses as well. They've got the advanced infrastructure, and that's I suppose in tech and knowledge industries, that's all about the universities and how we're spitting out talent and people who can help you accelerate, both on the commercial side, on the design side, and on the technology side. And of course, the fuel that drives lots of the growth at this stage, it's the financial capital. So, it's the sheer amount of VC money that's going into tech companies here, and the tax reliefs that the government have put in place. So it's giving cash back to investors. So, for example, at an early stage, if I invest £100,000 in you, the government gives the investor back 50,000. So it's mitigating their risk to invest in early stage companies. That all makes up for a very attractive ecosystem for Korean companies to come into. So a very quick whistle stop tour by what I think are very practical reasons why a Korean tech company would look at the UK market. For any more questions, of course, get in touch with the organisers or myself, Tony, at symphonyassociates.com, and check out Immerse UK, London Venture Partners, Station 12, VCs. Check out Innovate UK, which is a great source of grant funding, and of course City Curator, which is another one of my companies which looks at helping companies land into Europe. And that's me. Thank you.